and they put like chicken. You can put cheese with it, beef, and it just tastes good. Yeah, just go to Juicy Beef, research it, look it up, save it. So when you go to Jamaica, you can taste it. But at that time, we could, my sister and myself could afford patty and cocoa bread and Big Joe. Big Joe was, yeah, a box drink. I mean, I tell you, say, for the whole time we were going to high school, box drink, Big Joe, cocoa bread, and patty would kill us every single day. Every single day. And I remember one day we saved up and decided we were going to go to KFC, you know. So I think we were in like, I was in third form and my sister was in, I don't remember what year you were in, Kim, but I think probably she was in fifth form at the time because we were 2 years apart. So, and we were going to the same school. So I remember when we did save up and decided that we were going to go to KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, that place. Yeah, man. So we decided we decided to go ahead and buy some KFC. I mean, I tell us, we save up the money for the whole week, you know, because at that time we were selling the Bobby and the black cherry. So we're able to do that. I mean, I tell us, say, some people in life, you know, them just walk and just watch, you know, because I tell us, say, at that time, my neighbor go tell my daddy that we go buy, you know, KFC. I mean, I tell us, say, it was just 2 little piece of chicken, you know, 2 little piece of chicken. My daddy find out and asking us where we got money from to go and buy KFC. You understand? I mean, say, a lot of mercy, seriously. But anyways, that was it in terms of, you know, our big KFC. Yeah, but that was it. When taxi fare increased like, you know, $10. So it was the same $500 you were getting, $40 to go, $40 to come back, and that's $80. So that what leaves you with $20. So you need to get additional $20. So how we ended up getting the additional $20 was we were selling the Bobby and the black cherry, and that's how we ended up with the extra $20. Myself and my sister, so we still had the $40 to maintain this Big Joe Big Joe patty and cocoa bread lifestyle for the entire high school days. But we never really complain about anything. We never really complain about anything. We were just going to school, getting our education, coming back home, and using our lamp. You know, go to bed, wake up, bathe in the outside bathroom, and school again. You understand? And that was it. Then after, like, I was there, you know, at that time, the government was giving away, not really giving away, they were paying for certain amount of subjects. They were paying for us. That is why we have to make that change for our kids. Exactly, Herbert, exactly. So at that time, the government was paying for, I think they were paying for, maths, English. They were doing computer science. I think it was 3 subjects or 4. I don't remember, but I ended up doing 8 subjects in high school for CXC. And at that time, it was, the government was doing that. And so I needed to do more subjects because I said, no, Sammy can't come out and just do, but because my parents never had the money, you understand? We could hardly find that tuition fee, not tuition, but school fee, we call it at that time. We hardly had that money to pay for our school fee at that time. So much as to go and tell them that you want to do 5 more subjects, where they going to get that money from? You understand? So I think we were able to get 2 more subjects. I don't remember how it go, but I went ahead and, because as I say, I was going to church, and you know, church people, them support you, you know, them support you. So they're always good people out there. You understand? But there was a elder who I said to him that I wanted to go ahead and do the subject, but I was short. I wanted him to pay for 1 if that was possible. And he went ahead and paid for all 3 of them. You understand? He and his wife. And that was good. I think it was 3 or 4. Yeah, he went ahead and paid for all of them. You understand? Me asked for 1 and the Lord blessed me with 4 more, 3 more, and that was good. So I went ahead and did all my subjects, and then afterwards passed, and I was like, oh Lord, what am I going to be doing now? Because no, me can't afford, you know, high tuition for college. So what am I going to be doing? Because remember, it was a struggle going through primary school and high school. Where am I going to get money from now to go ahead and do college? Like, that never, no plans was in place them time there. You understand? But at that time, I was there, and I don't remember. Oh, my church. So at my church, there were so many persons there that were in university. and they're always encouraging persons, the young folks in the church, to make sure that you get an education. And it was Adventist university, so I'm an Adventist, so I decided that just like everybody else applying for universities, some persons never have no money, me I apply too, you understand? And that's how I actually went in. I started out with going to university because they told me that, yeah, you can do the work and study at the time. So I took up the opportunity and started. And even though I never, had the money at the time and the amount of money that they were paying you for student labor, it wasn't much money. You understand? It wasn't much money, but it was at least a start for me. Because, me always tell myself, so once you start something, you must finish. Even if it take you 10 years to finish, you will finish. So the first thing you need to do is put your foot out there. And that was just it. So I started. I never know anything about student loan at that time because remember, I never really have no computer. Because when I was in high school, the library was my best friend. So I had to go to the Mandeville library in the evening and then try to make it back in time to catch that bus to go back home. You understand? Because taxi never really that frequent around my section there, because as I said, down that side was very lonely. So if you need anything, you go to the library, research, and then you head back in the town. So it was like that. So I never really know anything about student loan like that. And plus, never really have no TV if you watch to see if there was any advertisement. Any advertisement or anything like that for, student loan that you can actually take. And it's not like in the States here where some communities, them have newspaper throw at you. Your house where you can be like, oh, let me read the newspaper and see that they were advertising. No, it wasn't anything like that. You understand? The newspaper that we had access to were a newspaper that was already old. You understand? The only reason you had those was because you're going to put it together. You're going to tear up the newspaper to put it in the tomato, the box with the tomato, so the tomatoes can ripe a little bit faster and prevent it from kind of squeezing up and all them things there. So the newspaper wasn't there for, you reading and getting up-to-date information. No, it wasn't like that. But at that time, I started college, and I started out with the work and study program. Never knew, anything about how the tuition going to be paid. And so I was just going there. You understand? It's always nice when you're in a situation and you don't know what you're doing, but you see other persons out there doing it, and you just feel like you can figure it out. You understand? You can figure it out, and you're going to be one of those persons. And that was just it for me. So I started out and was working. And then I remember that this lady, I was working in this cafeteria on campus. I was working in the cafeteria on campus. And she said to me, why not think about why you don't take out student loan? I said, student loan? After me, I don't know about student loan. But anyways, she told me about it. So I go on the campus now, the main campus, because I was on the other side of the campus where they had this restaurant. So I went on the main campus and was researching it, and I did my application. I was just kind of waiting, and then I did go through, so I was able to start school the September. And at that time I wanted to do nursing, but for some strange reason, because there were a lot of student workers at the time, when I did my application, one person had called me and told me that I couldn't get in for nursing. So my next best thing was teacher education. And I was trying to figure out what it is, because they were saying I couldn't get in for nursing because I needed human and social biology. And I'm like, I thought you guys would have wanted straight biology versus, over H&S bio. And I was like, you know what? Nothing now gonna stop my show right about now, because me need to get an education. I need to kind of exit out of, this kind of situation. So I say, okay, then no problem. I can't get in a nursing. I am just going to go into the next best thing, teacher education. So I started out with business education, because I did well in business as well. And I did that application. I did got in and started out. But I always wanted to become a nurse. And so I went back to the enrollment department, and I'm like, I'm kind of curious as to why you guys don't want, straight bio, because I have straight bio. I had the subjects, but they were saying that, I needed H&S bio, human and social biology. And so I spoke with someone there, and they're like, no, we don't need you to have H&S bio. We prefer the straight bio versus the H&S bio. So they were able to get me into the department of nursing. But the problem is that you have to, so even though I was able to get in, I wouldn't be able to start until the following year. Because if you understand the nursing program, They do it on a, like, you know, you have to start at a specific time. And it's the same thing. If you miss a course or if you fail a course, basically you sit out for the entire year. It was the same thing. So I had to, you know, just continue. But the good thing about it is that I was doing only general education courses at that time, because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to kind of rush into doing some courses that probably won't be transferable, because I had them. I knew I wanted to do nursing. But for some strange reason, I never wanted to do pre-college, to do H&S bio when I had a straight bio. But, you know, sometimes when you come from country, you might not want to talk up a little bit and you're just shy and all them stuff there. That was just me. So I never really go ask somebody who looked a little bit older than myself why, you know, if they say, oh, you can't get in because you needed that, that was just it. Me just turn me back and just cut. You understand? But I come to realize at the time, later on, that she was like a student nurse as well. So she was clueless like myself. But yeah, so I never did anything that was outside of like the general courses in the first semester. So all of those courses were transferable into my nursing program, and then I got in to the nursing department. But then getting into the nursing department was another struggle as well, because when I was there, my sister loaned me I had a pants and my sister loaned me a blouse, and I never had a decent shoes, because, you know, you want to wear a shoes that is going to be closed up and you want to look professional, like, you know, professionally when you're going in for your interview. And I remember me telling some dressed like pussy, you know. What me tell you, I was so well dressed to go into the interview, and it was raining at the time, so I never wore my shoes because I never wanted it to get wet. Because at that time, the only thing we could afford at the time was a shoes that they were selling in a bag. They had some little plastic bag in the town, and it was like a black suede shoes, and I think it was like about $500 at the time, but it looked good. You understand me? I was just looking at it to say, okay, me have on my pants and me have on my black shoes and my blouse, and me ready for my interview. When I reached into the interview, did my interview, after one person from the panel, she came out and she's like, okay, Stacey, that was very nice and whatever, you know, she's looking forward to, you know, seeing me in classes. And then after I hear the director of nursing come out and say, oh, Stacey, oh, I'm so sorry, but you should have wore a skirt. I say, Lord of his mercy, what you tell me say today? Yeah, you know, you're coming for an interview next time, make sure you're wearing a skirt. So I said, that's it? A skirt? But at the time, you know, it was an Adventist institution, so I don't know if that was it. And they were very, very specific as to who was coming into the department. You understand? You had to look a certain way and all them stuff there. Yes, there was a specific look. But in my mind, I was so excited about my interview. Me never did think about say, you understand? I needed to wear a skirt, because if you look on campus, like almost everybody was wearing a skirt, because it was just that, especially for the nurses, they were always wearing skirt and they always just look really well put together. I should say, yeah, so unfortunately you weren't appropriately dressed for the exam, not the exam, the interview, so you're gonna have to come back another time if you want to do. I'm like, Jesus Savior, help me. You understand? Anyways, I went outside and me tell you some ball. I cried. Yeah, I cried. Anyways, I went back and the same blouse, the same shoes, and I get a skirt, and I go back into the interview for a second time, and I got into the department. And that was it. But may I tell you, say, yeah, that was just it. That was just it. But, you know, like every step, there is something there that is kind of, you know, preventing. Yeah, every step of the way, there was just like something there preventing. But anyways, I went in, did my program, and while I was there, as I tell you, I mean, I struggle. You know, I was struggling. I was still working as a student nurse, and I was still working as a student on campus. And at that time, you know, with nursing, you really can't work. You really can't work because you had summers to do. You know, you had the regular classes during the semester to do. And so it was good because I was always not really a workaholic, but me always do something. And that was it. I had a job in like the finance office, and every second, as soon as I run out of class, I run gone to do a little 1 hour, 2 hours. You understand? And that was just me back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it wasn't much money, but it was enough money to, you know, like pay for, you know, if I needed a little food, because no, it was the 3 sisters of us that were in university. 2 of my sister, my other sister, one of my other sister, she was doing accounts, and then my other sister was doing teacher education, and I was doing nursing. So it was the 3 of us, and it was a little bit easier for us to actually find a place closest to, you know, the university. And so 3 of us was there in one room, one little bathroom, because when you look at the rate that you would have to spend for, or the amount of money you'd have to spend on taxi fare back and forth for the 3 of us, it never made no sense. You understand? So it was cheaper for us to go ahead and get a little house, rent it, and we walk back and forth to school. And that was just it. So it was so much cheaper, because, you know, sometimes you can't go to your bed hungry. You know them way there. You can't tough it out 1 and 2 night. But that was just the easiest way for us and the cheapest way for us, because you're looking at, like, say, rent for $10,000. And when you look at the amount of money that we would have needed for probably 1 week, because taxi fare at the time was $150. Times that by 5, you almost reached $10,000 for one person already, and the week not done it. You understand? And if you're thinking about food as well. So it was just like so expensive for, you know, for persons to be back and forth traveling. And so that was just the easiest way out for us. But may I tell you, say, at that time, I was working, and at that time, you could actually get a little petty cash, something like a petty cash from what you're working. It wasn't much, but sometimes I would get probably like, say, $10,000, and that would help with the rent, or I would buy groceries, and that was it. But there wasn't much money. There wasn't much money. And as I say, my parents were working, like, you know, working like that. They were doing the same little odd jobs and all. You understand? Sorry. So, I remember at that time, my mom still had the little shop. And as I said, the shop wasn't like anything like no big haberdashery and all them stuff there where you look in the store, in the shop, and everything on the shelf. No, when you look, you see probably six bottle of soft drinks. Scatter. Scatter on the shelf. She have a little flour, and she have what else? Sometimes I say to mommy, Mommy, why not just close down the shop? But you know, you have some persons, they just want to be doing something, even if you don't really make no money, or if you don't really make no sense. So anyway, she continued doing her business, and every time I go down there, I'm like just shaking my head at me. I said, no, sir. But at that time, we never really did take taxi that often, because as I say, we were in the town, and we were like, say, walking distance, like a 10 minutes walking distance from the school. So sometimes she would send up some money. Yeah, man. So sometimes she would go ahead and she would send the money. And at that time, remember I tell us the taxi fare is what? Probably like $150, almost $200 per head. $200 to go, or $150 to go, and $150 to come back. And she would normally send up some money, and she send some groceries. But the grocery, and I'm like, no, what about grocery? It wasn't like a ton of groceries or anything. She would send up some grocery. But when she sent in the grocery, because my university was it's a Seventh-day Adventist university, so they only serve like, you know, vegetarian food over there. You had a restaurant across the road that they would serve like not Chick-fil-A. Why am I saying Chick-fil-A? Fish fillet. You understand? And that was it. But otherwise, it's a straight vegetarian. Yes, the Marsha. I went to NCU. Yeah, man. So it was just like you know, straight vegetarian food. That was it. So anyways, we started to not really, well, one of my sister became vegetarian, and my other sister and myself, yeah, we eat the same chicken. We never did pork, shrimp, and all them stuff there. But anyways, we eventually tofu, veggie trunks, yeah, man, them stuff there on campus, because when I get my little money, I would go ahead and buy from the store on campus. And so may I tell you, say, veggie chunks, because they don't serve anything else. Veggie chunks, tofu, all them stuff there would have kill we. You understand? So when my mother decides that she's going to send us some grocery from the shop, she's sending up 1 tomato. 1 tomato. Like 1 single tomato, you know, not 1 pound of tomato. 1 single tomato. All right, sorry about that. You know, sometimes I cut in onions. Yeah, man. Yeah. So the onions kind of getting on my eyes. Them. That's all. So is nursing worth it? Yes, it is. But anyways, big up to mommy. Definitely the Marsha. But as I was saying, she would normally send like, you know, 1 tomato. She would send oh Lord. Yeah, this is a part that always, you know, made me a little bit tearful. Sorry. But is nursing worth it? Yes, it is. It is worth every, yeah, it is worth it. So, did you know Lichoy rooms? No, I don't know that person. But yeah, she would send up like, you know, tomato. She would send up like one, what was it again? Sweet pepper. She would send up like a half a chicken, a little rice, some flour. And as I say, it wasn't that much. And then she would go ahead and send, at the time, she would send like a $500 bill. But how she normally does it, and this was like on a taxi. How she normally does it is, she would normally put it in like in a little pocket, and she will put it with all of the grocery and send it on the taxi. And so, you know, that money is going to have to split. Definitely, Matthew. Yeah, so she would normally go ahead and send that up, and then after she sends it, you know, that was it for us. We never really know where any more money was coming from. Like, we never know where any more money was coming from, because that was just it. So as I said, I was working on campus. There wasn't much money, because that money now was gonna be saved for, you know, paying like summer classes, pay for summer classes, because I had gotten the student loan, but student loan wasn't enough to cover all of the tuition costs, and it wasn't enough to cover summer classes as well. So I had to be working just the same. And my sisters were working as well. My sister was working at the time. And so that was it. And yeah, you know, I was there doing my nursing program, and then it was time now to go into Kingston campus. I was going into Kingston campus, and then just remember, you know, country girl, not really go Kingston like that, except when I was much younger and I was sick. That was it. So I started a nursing program, and the program is split in two. So you have to do like a portion in the Kingston campus, on the Kingston campus. And I remember, like, you know, I would be going to classes and doing everything. And yeah, it was time not to go into Kingston campus. Poor me never really think about that in the initial, you know, stages of when I did the application, that no, I'm going to have to go into Kingston. I remember say, I tell you, we never really had the money to go ahead and, you know, be paying for Kingston campus and Mandeville campus at the same time. You know, that wasn't in the making. All right. Oh, remember to go ahead and like up the live, everyone. All right. Go ahead and like up the live. Thank you for tuning in. And remember to follow me on YT as well. My ThinkNursing channel. So go ahead and follow me over there. I share just about, you know, everything, longer form content. I also have a podcast that is coming up. And just going to be talking with nurses. So definitely go over there and check out the channel and be a part of it. All right. Pamaleta, thank you. Love note, thank you for tuning in. All right. And I will definitely go ahead and follow you guys as well. All right. But definitely go over there and follow me and be a part of the channel. And if you're a nurse and you're watching and you want to share your story about growing up, a day in the life of a nurse, or just sharing anything, you understand, something to motivate, encourage person, bring awareness to, then feel free to reach out to me. You understand? Feel free to reach out to me and be a part of my page. All right, but yeah, so definitely do that. All right, so I guess I'm gonna pause for a little bit, not because of any onion is around, but I'm gonna pause a little bit and then I'll continue talking about my journey. As I say, it's like talking about it is something that brings back a lot of memory, and yeah, that's just it. That's just it. Sasha, thank you for tuning in. Kendra, Matthew, Amanda. But where are you guys joining from though? I remember to go ahead and double tap on my nose. Yeah, like up the live. Like up the live. Where are those 7 hearts from? Okay, I don't really know much about that. Yeah, let me know whether or not you want to hear more. Oh, you're from Portmore, Pamaletta. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I spent a little time in Portmore when I was doing my nursing program, but not for long though. Yeah, go ahead and like up the live. I'm not gonna continue. I'm gonna do like what I see the other TikTokers do. I'm not gonna go on any further until I see 5,000 hearts. I don't know much about TikTok. All right, sorry, but yeah, I'm learning. I'm just here to provide content. That's all. But thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for doing that. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, so I spent a little time in Portmore. How are the mosquitoes in Portmore? Winston, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. And I really want to hear the story. You're watching from Florida? Okay. Oh no, Marvin. I'll let them go ahead and do that if they want to. But they can like up the live. Yeah. I want to feel still here, not going nowhere. Okay, Pamaletta. Okay. Oh, so you guys did go ahead and do that. And remember to share the live as well. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, so as I was saying, it was time now for me to go to Kingston campus. I'm going to tell you, at that time, I never really know where any money was coming from, because now I'm going to have to think about finding a place to live in Kingston. You understand? Finding a place to live in Kingston and do the remainder of the 2 years of my nursing program. And at that time, as I say, my other sisters were at the main campus in Mandeville, and then I was the only one that is going to go down that side. So can you imagine now, I hardly have enough money to pay for taxi fare in Mandeville, because sometimes, as I say, when I get the $150, we're not doing anything but the $150, you know. We keep the $150 for forever. Yeah, man, because we walk home, we walk to school, and the only time we use it is really whenever it rains. And it has to be like flooding outside. Yeah, man, for us to actually use that money, because we were saving it. Had you done the NCLEX? So this was in Jamaica. I did the NCLEX in 2015 or 2014, thereabout. Matthew. And then, so I had gone into Kingston campus and started doing that. But I got some assistance from one of my uncle, who helped with paying for my dorm fee, because it was cheaper to stay on the dorm. And you can actually do like a payment plan versus going to find somewhere to rent and then having to pay electricity bill, water bill and all. So the dorm was very close to the main campus in Kingston. And so I was able to walk back and forth. So the walking thing never done. Walking thing was like, you know, part of me for the entire time. So I was able to walk from the Kingston campus to the dorm. And that was probably like about 20 minutes walk in the halfway tree area. So I was able to do that in the mornings. So I'd get up very early, because taxis on the road, but I couldn't afford it. And even if I could afford it, it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense, because traffic was just like always jamming. Yeah, there was always traffic jam during the morning time. So it never really make any sense I did that. So I got up very early with my little rag and some water. and just start trot it. You understand? Start walking down to the main campus, rain or shine. Unless it was flooding as usual, then my little money would be used. But otherwise, it's not going to be used. And then, because that was, you know, my school fee was covered by student loan. My dorm fee was covered by my uncle with a payment plan. Then the only thing I needed to worry about was the my taxi fare. And even though I was at the Kingston campus, I would still, like, on Fridays, like, if I am off and if I had money to go back, then I would go and work a few hours in the finance office on the main campus. And then after a while, I had to stop that because I couldn't afford it to go back to Mandeville. So the only time I was going back to Mandeville or to my home was, like, you know, you have to have a plan. It's not a case like I say, oh, I miss home and I want to go home like that. It wasn't anything like that. It was a case where if my mommy had groceries, and it makes sense because at that time now you're thinking about taxi fare being around not taxi but bus fare. So you're taking a taxi from halfway tree, which was like $50 to downtown, which is $50. Then you're taking a bus from downtown to go into Mandeville, which was another $350. So that is what, $400. And then you're taking a taxi from the town to my yard, not fully to my yard because I had to walk for another 30-45 minutes thereabout. But that was another $100. So roughly about $500 to go down one way. So if I was supposed to be going back to my country, the trip must be worth it. So there has to be plans in place for me to be coming up with a ton of things. It wasn't a case like, oh, I miss home and I'm homesick. No, none of that. You understand? So I never really go home that often because when I get my little money, I would be saving. And now when I talk about a little money, it wasn't much money. Because, like, if my mommy had $1,000, sometimes my sister would say, Mommy, just send it to Stacy because, you know, I needed it more than her because at that time she would be able to walk still back and forth. She never needed the money like that. But I had to take into consideration that I had clinicals. You understand? Country girl that town. No, you know, it's not like I was going anywhere, but country girl that town, country girl need money. But when I get my little money, sometimes she would say that she going to the bank to send some money. When she going to the bank to send money, probably she's sending $1,000. You understand? You're thinking about all $20,000 your parents are sending you. She's sending $1,000, and I never really complain about anything. My $1,000 stay right in my bank account. You understand? Until it was time for clinicals, because every single day I'm doing the same thing, back and forth with walking to the main campus and then to the dorm. And then in terms of food, I tell you that I love ackee. I love ackee and saltfish, so ackee and saltfish would have killed me. So not only bun and cheese would have killed me at bun and cheese, or not bun and cheese, but bun and cheese was for college, but on the main campus. But for high school, it was patty and cocoa bread. But for Kingston campus, it was ackee and saltfish and yam, because I love ackee and saltfish. And when I go downtown and buy ackee and saltfish, I buy ackee. Thank you so much for that gift. Who sent it? Leline. When I go downtown and buy ackee, you know, ackee come in pods of 3. So when I go down there and buy ackee, there's a lot of ackee that come. You understand? If you buy 12 ackee, I don't remember how they do it. 1 dozen ackee. I don't remember how they do it. But if you buy that and carry it home, I'm me alone and God. You understand? So when I cook that, I bring ackee to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, me done. Ackee and saltfish with yam. That was it. I would just sit down and be eating my food. I'm my belly full. You understand? Me not yawn or anything like that. Like me feel like, you know. Yeah, so I definitely go ahead and cook not every day, but I cook and, you know, do my meal prep. At that time I was doing meal prep. And that was it. And then what else? Then when it's time for clinicals, then I had my little money save up because I'd have to go to different places in Kingston to get clinicals. So, you know, when you're poor people no mess up courses and them stuff there. You understand? You don't fail any course because you don't have money for waste. So it was the same thing for clinicals. You know that you don't have the money. So when you go to clinicals, you make use of it. You don't miss any clinicals. You don't fail any course because you don't have money to do over anything. And that was just it. Showed up for my clinicals, make sure I'm on my best behavior, done my class work, my clinicals and everything, so I don't have to repeat anything. You understand? And that was just it. Until it was like, you know, you finish everything now, you're going through and you become a pro at surviving in Kingston with little. And then it was time for me to do my exam or graduate. But at that time when I was supposed to graduate, the package for graduation was so expensive. It was like so expensive at that time. But it was a good thing I was still working. At one point I'd gotten a grant as a part of my student loan, and that kind of saved me a bit. But the package at that time for graduation was like so expensive. I know some persons would have said, well, you know, they probably wouldn't have done it, but I was able to come up with the money for the package for graduation, pay for it, and it was the best. It was a really nice feeling at that time, because you're done with school now. You're done with school. Going to sit the exam, it was the same thing, just excited, you know, when it's time. I don't know if you understand the nursing program in Jamaica. It's a little bit different in terms of how you go about with sitting your clinicals, because the clinicals was more of, it's a regional exam, and so you have persons from different parts of the region that would normally come and, you know, sit with you with the exam. So when you go to the hospital, you're not like, you know, being informed of what patient you'll be getting. You just know that you're going to KPH and you're going to be on the medical floor, and that's it. You're going to Andrews Memorial Hospital, and that's it. You're going to be on the orthopedic medical floor, surgical floor, and that's it. It's your responsibility to go to the hospital, find out the conditions that they have, the diagnosis, the medications, read on them, procedures that are common, because when you show up for your exam on that day, they're going to tell you that, okay, then you're going to take Tom, Dick, and Harry. And the plan is going to be, you're going to care for the patient. You're going to do the procedures. You're going to do the medication administration in front of 1, 2, 3 persons from the region. So whether or not that person come from St. Kitts and the Nevis, Grenada, the other person come from Trinidad, wherever they are from, you're going to have to stand up there and talk about the patient out of your head, because you'd go in from early in the morning. So at that time, you probably get up in the morning from 3 o'clock and go to these hospital, because you want to make sure that if you had gone and seen the patients like the day before, you don't want it to be a case where none of the patient either died, got discharged, and you're not familiar, or you have new admissions come on. You don't want that to be the case, because you don't know if when you show up, if you are one of those persons who would sleep late and you show up late, you don't know if the patient that you're going to be seeing is one of those admissions that you're not familiar with. Because they're just going to go and say, okay, then we have 15 patients. We're going to have you see room 10 and room 12. And we're going to give you 30 minutes. And it's your responsibility to go ahead and talk about the patient. You're going to present the patient to them. You're going to present your plan of care and everything. They're going to ask you a question. If the patient has procedures to do, it's your responsibility to go ahead, do the procedures, and they're going to grade you. And that is going to help with determining whether or not you become an RN. So you're done school, God bless you, but you had that portion that you definitely need to do during your entire program before you actually can say you are an RN. And then you have to go and sit the written exam. So the written exam was a little bit different, because it was more of, you have short answer questions and you have multiple choice questions. It's not like our NCLEX questions or NCLEX exam where it is strictly multiple choice or select all that apply. No, you have comprehension type questions. You have true and false questions, multiple choice questions. It's like 2 days exam. Yeah, it was 2 days. 2 days for the exam, and that was it. And you also had to do the clinical part. But the clinical aspect of it, people always mess it up, because, you know, when you're nervous, sometimes you go there and probably think that you know the information, but you go there and you mess it up. So yeah, that was the biggest, you know, a part of the challenge of nursing in Jamaica, doing that exam. Because you find yourself, some persons who normally get up from 2 o'clock in the morning, because you know they have exam at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. They get up from 2 o'clock in the morning and go to the hospital because they don't want to miss anything. They want to make sure that all the medications they're familiar with, the conditions, you know, and come up with like a little plan of care in the meantime. So that just in case they tell you that Tom is a patient you're going to be dealing with, at least you have an idea of that. So it's a lot of, you know, the preparation is very... It's a lot of work, let's just say. Clinical test your knowledge. Definitely, Matthew. So yeah. So I was able to do that. I tell you so because me know that, me not have no money to repeat anything. I don't have any money to repeat anything. I just go with the mindset that when I go, I study when I'm studying, I study a little bit different. I don't know, but I study a little bit different when I am, studying. So what I did was I go ahead and create care plans for the most common conditions right across the board and just try to see what is familiar, then put them in one side of my brain and say, okay, then this is something that can be used for all my patients, regardless of what the condition is. Then when it comes down to your stroke, your heart attack, there are certain things that you specifically want to make mention of, and I know those. So when I go there and I say, oh, these are your patients, and then they tend to try to ask you, like, what's the relationship between like the heart attack with the stroke and the hypertension, and you have to be there trying to think about it, rationalizing it on the spot, because you don't know what somebody else, you don't know what each person is going to be asking. You don't know what they're going to be asking. You just know that you have to have an understanding of the relationship with the conditions, and then from there you answer. So I go there and I was like, this is it. I'm not going to be doing it. And at that time, you hear that a lot of persons were failing. Probably because they were nervous, because some of these persons were very smart persons. But a lot of them were failing. I said, no, sir, if this person not fail, what will happen to me? But I went out there, tell you, so the day when I saw them, I was like, okay, then. Yeah, this is it. Because only one chance. You could actually do, they could repeat. You could do a repeat on the exam. But I don't like the repeat. I don't like it because then, I don't want to do a repeat. But I tell you, when I went there and they said, okay, then Stacey, this is what, I'm going to have you take this patient, whatever. I'm like, okay, then, not a problem. I went ahead and started just chatting. I really told, and they say, yes, Stacey, that's enough. I'm like, oh, thank the Lord, I guess I passed. And funny enough, when I was after they started talking about, like, after everybody did their exam and everything, and they started making mention of persons who actually did well. And funny enough, I was the one who did well in the batch. And I'm like, oh my word. But they don't know that I was very, very nervous at the time. I was like so nervous, but I just never wanted it to be a case where I miss something and then I'm going to have to repeat anything, because I can't bother with no repeat. I cannot deal with the repeat. You understand? And so that was just it. The Marsha says, so would you say nursing is way more intense than the States? I would say so, because a lot of times I would be precepting students, honestly, and I'm not really impressed with them. Sometimes they are in their final year, and some of them don't know anything. You understand? So I'm not really impressed with them. I can say based on the training in Jamaica, you understand, because in as much as, yes, we were short staff, they were swatting for the exam. Even though we were short staff in Jamaica and the nursing students were on the floor, you have nurses who took the time out and explain, and the nurses were hungry. We were hungry for for information, let's just say, because I remember it wasn't a case where you just go and you show up. We couldn't show up with a cell phone when you go to clinicals. No, when you go to clinicals, and it wasn't, you couldn't show up for clinicals with a cell phone. You couldn't show up to clinicals without a blood pressure machine, and it wasn't you can't walk with the automated blood pressure machine. It has to be a manual. You have to have one of those mercury thermometer that you shake down. The first time you shake it, it drop. You understand? Because you don't know what you do. So you had to do the shake down like this with a thermometer. So all of those things, you have to have your scissors. You have to have a tape measure. You have to have your dictionary. Me not say anybody with no dictionary. You ask student, now a precepting student, and say, okay then, what is heparin? Tell me a little bit about heparin. And them jump onto them phone. Like they don't even have a dictionary to say, okay then, let me scan through and find out. So it's like, no, I'm not really impressed with them, because I don't think they're that prepared. They don't really show that much of an interest. I think the program in Jamaica is a little bit more intense. It pushes you. And as I say, with, I guess the patients as well, the resources with the nurses, you get a chance to do a little bit more hands-on. And I understand that there are a lot of legalities with the States here, But even so, you have persons who are coming into the field or they're in the field and them seem like them not really want there. You understand? They seem as though they're not interested in learning. So, me don't really know. I don't really know. Hi, Marlon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Male Justin Messiah. And see your male nursing student here. Big up yourself. Absolutely, because I'm a CNA here and at the facility where I work, it had me questioning sometimes some things. Yeah, definitely. So in Jamaica, like, you know, remember, even so, you have, you're working along with nurses, you're working along with doctors. A lot of the hospitals there are teaching hospitals. I've seen where we have teaching hospitals here. And even when you say to the nurse, say, okay, then I'm going to show you how to do whatever. I'm going to hold your hand. They're going to tell you, oh, I'm not supposed to do it. I mean, y'all want to be on the screen, ma'am. You understand? I understand, but at least try. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just showing you how to do an injection. May I tell you, say, okay, hold it like this, put it down like this, and that's it. You understand? But they're going to tell you that, oh, and they stay over the side and they're on TikTok. Just like how you see me here, they're on TikTok. And then whatever. And then as soon as it's the end of the shift, not even the end of the shift, you hear they say, oh, well, nurse, I have to go now. And I'm like, I'm not used to that. I'm not used to that. You understand? Jamaica, India, and Philippines are the hardest nursing program in the world. Well, I don't really know about India and Philippines, but, you know, because I haven't really researched, but definitely. But yeah, but a lot of things like, you know, I see them doing, because even when in nursing school, you know, in first year, you're on like observation. You go to the hospital, you observe. Then we were able to do the phlebotomy course. It wasn't really the course you were doing. Well, it was a course, but you never got like a certification. But you had to do the summer where you go ahead and do your blood draw. And you also had to do your IV cannulation. So that way, when you start your second year, which is the year of the real nursing courses, at least when you get there, you know how to do that. You understand? And so persons were just excited about getting those things going. You hear nurses saying, oh, I'm gonna do a IV because you already know how to do it. You're like, me. You understand? So you go over there and everybody is there wanting to try to do the IV. And a lot of times the patients are not like they're not like complaining or saying whatever, because they're gonna be like, oh yeah, you're gonna be the nurse a couple months from now or years from now. You need to get your practice. You understand? So you realize that persons were really eager to learn. And that was it. It's the same thing. As soon as you're in like second year, third year, your patient count increases. You're able to do more for your patient. I don't really see anybody doing anything. The nursing students, they don't want to take a patient. You ask them to write a notes. Like sometimes because of how I'm trained, I would say, okay then, I want you to go ahead and write a soap note. Them don't even know what soap note is. They're just relying on the computer. They want to go on the computer, they go click. I say, no, go ahead and write a soap note on paper. Write it on paper so you can have an idea of what it looks like. You understand? Them say they don't know what soap note is. You ask them, okay then. Okay, the chest pain, patient coming with chest pain. Let's talk about chest pain. What is troponin? They don't know what troponin is. And you're talking about people who are graduating in a couple weeks. Final year student. And I'm like, we can't do that one here. I cannot do this one. So the program, it was hard because I know that when we were doing, I think when we were, so for example, we were supposed to do like 300 clinical hours. Our university was having us do like say 500 clinical hours. So we had a lot of experience. So by the time you're finished, you know how to run an entire floor, because we were able to do the management course, you know, or the class and take care of your patients. You're able to delegate and all of those things. So you find out that new grads leaving the nursing programs in Jamaica, they are so equipped and ready to go out there and take care of patients on those floors. You understand? It wasn't a case where you were shy and you're feeling as though, oh Lord, I'm a new nurse, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. It wasn't like that. Persons, when they leave, is either just jump right into the role of being a nurse because of the experience. Because as you're in second year, which is really the first year of nursing for you, where you're doing all of those NRSG courses, you were getting your 1 or 2 patients. And as you go along and you progress, you take on 1 or 2 more patients. So by the time you're finished, you know how to take care of a full patient load. You're able to critically think about, okay, then what is, you're anticipating what is going to be happening with the next patient or which patient needs to be seen. and you understand how the patient is going to respond under certain conditions or situations that is happening with them. So I did like the program. I did enjoy the program. And I would say, like, if I was supposed to do over nursing again, I would go back through the same program. I'm not gonna really say if it was cheaper, but I would definitely do over my program in Jamaica because I got the foundation, the experience I needed, and that helped me when I transitioned here to the States. So definitely regarding that. Hi Saib 1992, thank you so much for tuning in and for sending that gift. Really appreciate it. Mr. Bailey Baby, thank you so much. Leaner 259, thank you for tuning in as well. And Soma. Yeah, so basically, you know, that's just it. Oh yeah, remember to go ahead and like up the live, people. But basically that's it regarding, you know, the nursing program. And that's it. Like, I graduated and yeah, I have no regrets regarding my, you know, my choice. No regrets regarding my decision to go into nursing, study in Jamaica, my experience working in Jamaica under, you know, situations that a lot of us as nurses has no control over. Yes, the system down there is a total hot mess, but I think we did well under the circumstances that we were placed under. So that was just it, because a lot of nurses down there, circumstances that we were placed under. So that was just it, because a lot of nurses down there, hold on 1 minute. Yeah, so even though, you know, the situations were not the best, I think the nurses, how we were trained, when we go out there, we're still able to, you know, assess and identify patients who are crashing. You know, we work real well under, you know, the situations that we are placed under a lot of times. And that's just it. I know a lot of times you might hear about cases and it just don't sound right, but you don't really understand what nurses are having to deal with until you hear like their work environment. What is it that they have available? Because if you don't have it available, there's no way for us to save life. Let's just say to save lives if you don't have certain things readily available for patients. And that's why I say I'm gonna start my YT page. Yeah, man, just go ahead and subscribe to it, because it is supposed to bring, you know, awareness to a lot of things that nurses are experiencing, like a day in the life of a nurse. And I want to start with my Jamaican folks. I want to start with my Jamaican colleagues. Yes, so that's where, you know, I am planning on focusing my content creation on. Going in and talking with nurses, hear their story growing up, hear their work experience. You understand? So people can have a better idea of what it is like being a nurse in Jamaica, what it is like being a nurse in Africa, what it is like being a nurse in the Philippines. And that's what I want to focus my nursing channel on. Yeah. Did you went back to work at Mandeville Regional after school before migrating? So yeah, so that's my if you look on your page, you know, D Marsha. Because yeah, so I did work at Mandeville Regional Hospital for 4 years. So that was my first nursing job. I have no regrets regarding it. I did got a lot of experience there. As I say, you know, it's a teaching hospital, so you have a lot of interns, you have a lot of students there. And the patient count is just the same like, you know, any other hospital. We saw just about all cases, you understand? I did end up in the emergency room because that's always my love. When I started nursing, I always had an interest in emergency room nursing. And so I did experience, you know, a little bit of a pediatrics. My first time on the pediatric floor wasn't like the best because, you know, when you hear them little tiny cries, they never really like it. It was like, it wasn't really a NICU, but it was like, yeah, it's something similar to a NICU. We never really call it a NICU. But that was it. Those little tiny tots, neonates, you know, just born and whatever. That was my first experience. I did like it. Did that for probably like 9 months, and then I went on to the pediatric, the bigger pediatric unit, and did a few more months. Then I did like, you know, medicine and surgical, a little bit of a gynae. Never like it, you know, not like woman chocho. Not my area. But and then I went into emergency room because that's where I wanted to hang out. That was my love. And so yeah, I did that. Malgally or somewhere in Manchester. Okay, Malgally is in Manchester. Yeah, it's in Manchester. So it was a pretty decent experience there. As I say, you know, most of the hospitals in Jamaica, if you're a nurse, you're going to experience just about everything there, because it's not like the States here where you have active ambulance services. In Jamaica, we don't have active ambulance services there like that. We have ambulance services at the hospital. Sometimes it looks like a little bus. Yeah, a little bus with the little light on top, and it make a little wee wah sound, but it don't really all the time look like a regular ambulance that you see here in the States here. But we do have 1 and 2 of those at the hospital that does like transport between different hospitals. But in terms of active 911, 119 number, no, we don't have that. You understand? Most of the time the patients are being transported by passerby, friends, family members to the hospital, or because of the or police officers, you know, depending on what was happening. We have no ambulance services in Jamaica. Well, we have private ambulance services in Kingston, and some of those major hospitals, they, you know, they kind of partner with them. But yeah, and if you go to one of those, I think they have the Spanish hospital in, I think it was like, I don't remember if it is in Montego Bay, I don't remember the name of it, where, yeah, if you have your money, your good up money and all them stuff here, you can always go there. And I think they have a helipad there as well. So depending on how big your insurance is, and if you're in Jamaica and you know, you have an emergency, then they can always fly you back out to wherever. It's Mobe, yes. I don't remember the name of it, but I passed there. But I hear that they have MRI machines, CT scans, everything, you name it, you can get it done there. But then, you know, as I say, it's gonna cost you some money, but it's there if you definitely wanna get the treatment there. But for the majority of the hospitals, I hear that not Mandeville Regional, but I hear that, oh Jesus, yes, private hospital, 100,000 for transport. I think probably they're quoting some of these. I don't know if that is equivalent to whatever US dollars, but I know definitely it's going to be very expensive based on what they do over there. You understand? So, but for the public hospitals, we don't really have like CT scan machines at all of the public hospitals, because I know the Mandeville Hospital I was working at, we never had that. But in not Montego Bay, I know at KPH, I think they do have a MRI machine there, I think, or a CT scan. I think it's a CT scan machine. I think they do have a CT scan machine there, and probably a question mark beside an MRI machine, because that's one of the major hospitals in Jamaica. So a lot of times when we were working with, you know, in the hospital at Mandeville or at the hospital, if we had patients who needed a CT scan, it was more of family members would have to go ahead and pay for the test. So if you have a stroke patients, family members would have to come up with those money. If it's a case where, you know, everywhere you go, it's always dependent on the age, you know, underlying conditions, all of those things that is happening with the patient. You have hospital, the hospital will still go ahead and pay for some of those services. So if it's a dire emergency, so not saying that if you show up, you're going to be getting a CT scan or you're not going to get one. It depends on the case. You understand? It depends on the situation. Then they will definitely go ahead and get you over to that CT scan machine, which is usually across the road. So they partner with different facilities to get the CT scan done under emergency situation. So if you're a young person met in an accident, you need a CT scan done, and they feel as though that, you know, the outcome is going to be good, they will go ahead, get you on the ambulance and go over there. And as I say, everything everywhere in life is the same thing here in the US. You know, it's not different. It's no different in Jamaica. All right, it's the same thing here in the US. When it comes on to certain testing, and depending on where you go, they will decide, okay, then whether or not you will benefit from it. It's the same thing in Jamaica. So sometimes, you know, if they don't have the machine to do the X-ray, then they will definitely send you over to the other facility that is across the road that does X-rays for the hospital, and they'll do that under emergency situation. Not really a emergency, but you know, the CT scans are usually under emergency situation, and then they'll get it back. You won't pay any money for that, for anything that is like a dire emergency, and the hospital sends you to get the testing done, because it's a dire emergency. It's a real emergency. But not saying that your strokes are not dire emergency or real, you know, but sometimes depending on the age group and the deficits and all of those things that are going on, you can't really send out 10, 15, you know, patients to get all of those done, when sometimes the prognosis doesn't even really, you know, look 100. But they try to facilitate, because as I say, a lot of times you have inpatients as well that need to go over there